What's up YouTube, Capital G here, another episode of Hope for Rogue Players, and this one was absolutely surprising and awesome at the same time. Blue Eyes is in the mother freaking house. You guys know the deck that everybody likes to trash, the deck that we all meme, we say it's, you know, the brickiest deck, people call it Brick Eyes and whatnot. Well, Quan Ulrich actually took this to the Philadelphia Regionals that happened over the weekend. My moderator on my live stream actually ended up going to the event. He played against Quan, and at the end of the day, he was like kind of shocked because he ended up making top 32 at the Philly Regionals. And if you guys don't know, let me just give you a quick history lesson on the Philadelphia Regionals, because I consider Philly to be like one of the legendary regionals when it comes to regionals in the United States. There are really just two of them. There are Philly and Los Angeles, and they're not even so much regionals as they're kind of like YCS events. I mean, this event was 10 fucking rounds of Swiss, like 10 rounds of Swiss, guys. Usually when I go to regionals, I'm expecting 7 to 8 rounds of Swiss. Like usually after 8, I'm like, all right, enough Yu-Gi-Oh, no mas. But yeah, this was 10 rounds of Swiss. Over 600 people showed up. And I believe that that might be the largest Philadelphia regional of all time. Yu-Gi-Oh! Dying confirmed. Just kidding. And then obviously there's like the Los Angeles regionals, which, you know, sometimes gets like 1,000 people. But yeah, man, Blue Eyes is still in the house, and this is the deck list. And he went 8-2 in the event, although one of his opponents did not show up for a round. So even if you want to discount that and you want to say he really went 7-2, come on now. 7-2 with Blue Eyes is still very legitimate. I like the fact that he ran the new card that just was released, Dragon Revival Rhapsody. Like, who doesn't like essentially a double Monster Reborn? You don't get to do any battle damage that turn, but it's still really good for those rank 8 plays. One thing that I did notice is not a ton of pendulum hate, but you know, sometimes the matchups just work in your favor. And he says here, nah, this is kind of ghetto, but I copy pasted it from the email that he ended up sending me. He played against 3 ABC, 2 Mech Knight Invoked, a Dinosaur 60 card variant that, you know, it's like Lightsworn and Dinosaur and whatnot. Actually, no, those were 2 different decks. He played against 1 Pure Dinosaur and then 1 60 card Lightsworn Dinosaur. He played against True Draco, and then he also played against 6 Heavy Samurai. He said he lost once to ABC and once to Mech Knight Invoke. So, I mean, I guess it kind of worked out for him. It looks like he actually was just able to completely dodge Mech Knight, or completely dodge Pendulum Magicians entirely. And I'm looking at his build. It's incredibly, like, solid. It's very well-rounded. I love the fact that he did not run Ash Blossoms, guys. You don't need Ash Blossom to compete in this meta. You can actually look at this deck. I mean, outside of the alternative dragons, because that's kind of a pricey card, I would say that this main deck is incredibly budget friendly with you know, the Blue Eyes and Pot of Desires. All this stuff is like been reprinted. He did one called by the Grave. I'm thinking that that's probably for opponents' Ash Blossoms, because I don't think Effect Veiler hurts Blue Eyes all that much, but I do. Well, I guess it depends. Like if your opponent hits your Sage with an Effect Veiler, that might hurt. But what I really think hurts this deck is Ash Blossom, because I mean, he has 3 copies of Trade In. He has 3 Desires. He has 3 copies of Melody of the Awakening Dragon, and then Sage. Like he needs basically his searching to go off, because the thing about Blue Eyes is that's where it kind of gets that bricky reputation from. Sometimes you will have a hand where there's only like 1 viable card in your hand that can be activated immediately, but that card might be something like Trade In, Desires, or Melody of the Awakening Dragon, and if that card resolves, then you get like a brand new hand, and your hand actually starts working. However, if it gets Ash Blossom, then you go back to having pretty much like a shitty hand. And I think that's where the Called by the Graves come in, so that he can just kind of negate that stuff and not have to worry about it. Again, this is one of the only decks that I know of that can actually search Effect Veiler. So, I mean, I think that Effect Veiler obviously makes a lot of sense. You know what? Maybe that's where, I guess, well, yeah, Veiler can be pretty good against Pendulum Magicians in the main deck if your opponent does summon the Astrograph, or not the Astrograph, but the Heavy Metaphors Electromite, just being able to Veiler it instantly. And he's probably going to always go for this if he knows he's playing against those matchups. I think that since he was able to run into like ABC and Mech Knight Invokes, decks that want to summon a whole bunch of big beaters, I think that that kind of worked for Blue Eyes. Like that's in their kind of wheelhouse, because like I don't know if ABC is going to really outbeat a deck like Blue Eyes. And honestly, the fact that Call to the Grave is being main decked in here means that even if he isn't playing against like hand traps, he can still just banish like one of the ABC pieces, or he can banish his opponents like Alistair or something like that. If they normal summon an Alistair and they have like an Alistair in the graveyard, and it basically acts as like an effect veiler as an additional copy. Side deck is pretty standard. It's got the Ghost Ogres, the Kaijus. Interesting to see Dimensional Barrier. I'm guessing that has to be for the Pendulum matchup. Like, I kind of thought Dimensional Barrier fell out of favor, but I guess basically it's kind of like a one card answer to a turn for Pendulum Editions. And I think the hope is that you can probably like just OTK them during your next turn if they can't really do anything except do that one normal summon, or if all they're going to be doing is summoning like Dark Worm, which if you flip this over as soon as they start, they can't even special summon the Dark Worm. So just an interesting deck, guys. And it shows you why people really enjoy this format so much. When people say that you can kind of play anything you want this format, if this is not proof, like, I don't really know what is. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this short little video. Give the video a thumbs up if you did. Let me know what you think of Blue Eyes making top 32. And again, don't discount it just because it's a top 32. This is a 600-person event. That is larger than YCS Salt Lake City. So just put that in context. If everything would have translated perfectly into Salt Lake City, this would have been essentially like a YCS top 32 deck. But, I think it was still a very good accomplishment. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already. Turn on that notification bell for daily videos.